transforming e-commerce, empowering all players in the digital marketplace. Please put your hands together and welcome to the stage Marichi Mathur, Vice President, Network Expansion, ONDC. Let's have a round of applause, please.
Is that on? Hi, is this on? You all can hear me? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure being here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a concept, and I would call it a concept because it's a new way of doing digital commerce. What I would encourage you to do, and I'd really want you to do, is when I'm doing this, please put your current understanding of how digital commerce works or any preconceived notions about digital commerce, just put it aside and listen to this with a very fresh pair of ears and eyes. The opportunities on the network is all about an access. And what I'm going to explain to you is not, ONDC is not a platform, okay? We are an access. And the way to look at what ONDC does is the network gives you access. And what I'm going to try and explain to you is how the network works on the digital commerce front. So if you look at the last 10 years in this country, right, they've been very transformative. A lot of digital action has happened. It started with UPI. UPI enabled people to open accounts. When you opened accounts, it enabled you to bring digital payments. So a lot of you who are doing e-commerce and did it back 10 years back realize how difficult it was to collect payments in the next set of towns. It limited your ability to go to the next set of town. Now payments is not a problem. From there, it opened up into the digital layer. You have your secure data, you have various services which are coming through that. So as part of this digital transformation, ONDC is very much part of this digital transformation and part of this digital stack. So ONDC is going to do to digital commerce in a very simple parlance is what UPI did to financial transactions. Okay, so if I'm trying to draw analogies to help you understand what is ONDC. So ONDC is like a tech layer. It's an enabler. It's a facilitator. We are not a platform. You can't go to the Play Store or an App Store and download an ONDC app. If you see that, then that's not ONDC. That's someone else masquerading as ONDC. Okay. So what ONDC has been set up to do? ONDC has been set up to do is to grow digital commerce in the country. So we are set up as a Section 8 not-for-profit organization. And the mandate for ONDC is to grow digital commerce. So if you look at digital commerce currently in India, it's standing at about 6 to 7%, which is far lower than some of the other countries we try to compete with. And if you look at the digital penetration, most of our sellers, if you go beyond the tier 1 cities, are undigitized, including a lot of sellers who are in tier 1 cities. So how do you kind of grow digital commerce and how do you build digital commerce in an inclusive way which helps the overall economy to grow? Mandate for us is very clear. Can we take digital commerce to a 25% of the economy in the next 5 years? And that's what ONDC has been set up to do. So contrary to sometimes what you may hear in certain articles and news, we are here to kill this entity, we are here to kill that entity. We are not here to kill anyone. We are an all-inclusive network. Everyone, from the largest player to the smallest player, has a play on the network. Okay? Now, if you look at how digital commerce has worked, right? Across the world, digital commerce has led to monopolies, right? Duopolies, monopolies. A few players in key sectors across the world have dominated digital commerce, right? India is no different. It's similar. If you look at food, you look at mobility, you look at fashion, any of those categories, few players dominate. Now, what it does is it creates inequalities and it restricts access. Yeah. What the world around, the way developed economies are going about is they're trying to put regulations to regulate it. India is going about it in a very different manner. We are saying, let's not look at regulation per se, but can we look at digital infrastructure as a way to enable and democratize and unbundle digital commerce in the country. And this is a more sustainable way, because this is all about participation. This is not about exclusion. This is not against anyone. It is including everyone. Everyone, equal opportunity, equal access, and that's the name of the game. So if you think about the internet, right? Internet's founding principles was all about openness and interoperability. You can access the internet from your mobile, from your tablet, from your laptop. You can fetch data from servers. Data can be pushed from anywhere else. How that was enabled was through a HTTP protocol. Same thing with emails. You don't have to be on the same email client to send the email to anyone. You can send an email to anyone across any email client, personal, private, whatever it is. How was that done? It was done through the SMTP protocol. Similarly, think about ONDC as an equivalent to the SMTP protocol. Okay? What ONDC is doing is build a layer of a tech layer, which is enabling, the protocols are enabling any organization or entity which is connected to the ONDC layer can digitally transact with one another. Okay? So now the concept here is one-to-many rather than one-on-one. The platform concept is you connect with a platform and you operate with that platform. You connect with another platform, you operate with that platform. The network commerce way is different. Once you connect to the network, you are able to access the entire network. Let me illustrate this a little better. So if you look at how digital commerce right now happens, right? It happens in a platform black box. Customers, sellers, and fulfillment. That is if you're selling a product. In case it's services, then it's customers and sellers. They all sit within that platform black box. What that means is you are limited by that platform's ability to reach out to customers, to bring sellers, and to provide logistics as a service. Right? If you're on platform A, you cannot buy from platform B sellers unless the platform B seller is also listed on platform A. Again, one-on-one connection. You have to be on multiple platforms, one-on-one. The network has been designed to shift e-commerce from a platform-centric way to a network way. And what is it doing? So if you look at three broad components of digital commerce, what are they? One is customers. Someone has to bring customers and do demand generation. Someone has to bring sellers, digitize catalogs, bring them on board, manage those catalogs, get you offers, update inventory. And the third is fulfillment. If there is a product which has to be delivered, there's fulfillment. So there are essentially three activities. In the current e-commerce way, a platform has to do all those activities. So all the heavy lifting the platform has to do. They may have expertise and strengths in one or two of those activities, but they do not have strengths in all the three activities. As a result, what is away from your core strength is where you're also spending more money. You're burning more resources. You're putting additional resources which are not core to your work, but you have to build that because without doing that, you can't complete the value chain, right? You can't stitch together the entire e-commerce value chain. What ONDC has done is we've broken this up into three components. So you could be an organization which has large customer cohorts, okay? You have large customer base, but you don't have sellers. You may have sellers in one particular category, but not on all categories. You may or may not have logistics tied in. Now what you do is come to the network and just connect your customer funnel to the network. That's it. So I could be a ride-hailing app, and I have connected my ride-hailing app on the customer side, on the buyer side, demand generation side. I plugged it in and I said, hey, I want to now start selling food. I want to now start selling grocery. I want to start selling fashion. I want to do any category. Now, in the earlier way, the platform way, I would have to build that seller ecosystem, right? I would have to put the heavy work, I would have to put in the legwork to build that seller ecosystem. Once I build the seller ecosystem, I would have also had to manage that seller ecosystem. Manage the catalog, talk to the sellers, make sure that the inventory is updated. Do they have the latest products? Are they giving the best offers? Are you creating the right value prop? And also when an order comes in, making sure that the order gets fulfilled, right? That entire heavy lifting. So me, as an organization, my core strength was I have access to large customer base. But in order to stitch the entire e-commerce value chain, I had to do all the activities. Now I don't need to do that anymore. All I do is plug in my customer base on the buy side onto the network and let other entities who are experts in the other segments do their bit. And that's how the network works, right? So if you see, there are three buckets. You can come in as a buyer application where you're bringing your customer. So you build the customer interface. The customer accesses the network and the sellers and the catalogs of sellers on the network through that buying interface. And you, as the buyer app, will become responsible and manage your interaction with on the customer side. You don't have to bother about the seller side of it. Someone else who's a seller side aggregator now will come in, either a directly integrated brand, integrate onto the network as a seller, or if you're a smaller seller, because there is some amount of technical build, you need to connect to our APIs, to our open APIs, to connect to the open network protocols. You may not have the tech capabilities. You can use seller aggregators who've already built those plugs, connected to the network, and they can ingest seller catalogs and start exposing them to the seller. Again, now the seller, the guy who's a seller aggregator or seller, does not have to worry about customer acquisition. Your cost of acquisition, your customer acquisition costs are very high, right? Getting access to customers is one of the key for a brand, right? Now you don't have to do all the heavy lifting. Okay? You can plug into other large demand generation engines or bringing large cohorts of customers to the network, and they will bring you the customers. So think of them as broadcasters. They will broadcast your catalogs, your value proposition as seller to their cohorts of customers. Right? So it gives you access. Again, the importance is access. It doesn't matter you're a small seller. You could be sitting in a small part of the country, or you could be accessing the network through a very small player. You could be a small seller directly integrated. It doesn't matter. It is now equal. Once you're on the network and a demand generation funnel is pulling your category of products, your catalogs will automatically start showing. Okay? Similarly, on the logistics side, you don't have to stitch the value chain. If you are a small e-commerce player who's decided to build an e-commerce business and starting to build seller ecosystems and all, and you don't have logistics, you don't need to now worry about building the logistics side of it. There are logistic players, again, similarly like seller, there'll be logistics sellers who will come on board and provide logistics as a service. So how does this look like, right? So there are these three components. So how does this look like? This becomes one big network. And I was telling you about the concept of one-to-many, connection of one-to-many. So once you connect onto the network, any of these services, you are connected to the network and you can then digitally transact with anyone else on the network and buy and sell their services and sell your products and services. Okay? So it becomes a universal network. Now, how does this become? I gave you an example of a buyer application, right? Now, a seller of a product. The seller of a product, I could be aggregating sellers. Let's say I'm a Kirana aggregator. I bring in lots of Kirana stores. Okay? I'm aggregating them and helping them reach more customers. Now, for that same Kirana aggregator who's bringing sellers, that same Kirana aggregator could also become a buyer application for the Kirana to buy their requirements. So you suddenly from a B2C play can also do a B2B play, because you are already representing those stores, you're already representing those sellers. You can just pivot and do a B2B play. All you have to do is become a buyer application for those entities and start pulling B2B catalogs and start exposing those B2B catalogs. I now don't have to build the B2B side of it. I just need to build a buyer interface so that my sellers who are integrated through me can also buy. Because ultimately they're using my dashboards to manage the inventory. If they run out of something, there itself I can integrate and build a buyer engine. A logistic player can come in and say, hey, I want to sell logistics. Now a logistics player can provide logistics to the network, as well as say, okay, because I have logistics, I might also come in as an aggregator and become an aggregator of seller services and bring in sellers. So if you think about it, you can use your core business, what you're really good at, plug that into the network, and then build it as you want it. So think about the network as a Lego set, right? You have these various components. Now it's up to you whether you want to build a rocket ship or you want to build a car or you want to build a car. It's completely up to you as an organization. Every entity on the network, the beauty of a network is that every entity on the network defines their terms, their conditions, their commercial constructs, and participates only in those transactions which are commercially viable for them. In a platform world, once you've connected to the platform, whether a transaction is viable or not, you need to complete that transaction, right? On the network, you have the opportunity to define your terms and conditions and only participate in those transactions which are commercially viable for you, and not participate in transactions which are not. For example, I could be a seller of services and there is a demand generation engine who is asking for a certain commission for generating orders. I, as a seller, can define what is the max cap I'm willing to pay. So when a demand generation engine broadcasts its search, when a customer searches for a product and it broadcasts its search, that search, when it comes to me, if it sits within my commercial construct, I will respond back to that search. Otherwise, I can decide not to respond back to that search. So now I'm not obligated to respond back to every search, right? So the same construct works for a buyer application. A buyer application broadcasts its search for a product. You have sellers who are sending their catalogs back. A seller who has a bad rating on the network, has poor fill rates, very high cancellation, it spoils the buyer application's customer experience. They can also define their terms and conditions. They can say any seller who does not meet a certain criteria, has X% cancellations or whatever, will not no longer be, I will not show that catalog. So when search requests come through from all the various sellers on the network, right? Now you have multiple sellers who are sending their catalog. You will automatically pick up those sellers who pass your threshold. The important thing to realize on the network is the network works on the principle of you defining your terms and conditions, and any entity who passes the gate on your terms and conditions will be part of your transaction. It is not a network where I say, I will work with this table, but I will not work with this table. Okay? The idea being that I am allowed to define my term because it is a commercial business for me. It needs to be viable for me, and I need to work with certain commercial viability construct. But on the other side, any entity on the other side has an opportunity, in case they are not able to do business with me, to understand why they are not able to do business, because they know that I have defined my terms and conditions. These are my conditions for working, high fill rates or maybe better images or whatever it is. The moment I'm able to fix that, automatically my catalogs are visible. So there's an opportunity for you to fix your visibility issues and come in. Unlike opaque sorting logics which are there, which you don't know. What are the sorting logics? What are the sorting algorithms? There are no sorting algorithms. The buyer applications, the demand generation engines define their sorting algorithm. They don't give you the code, but say, hey, I will show closest to the furthest, cheapest to the most expensive, highest rated to the lowest rated, catalogs with best images, with more images or less images, or any kind of criteria which is relevant for me as a business. As long as you pass the gate on that, your catalogs will be visible. Okay? So the way to look at it is that it gives you an opportunity. Also, if you are an entity, you are no longer now dependent on a single platform, because multiple platforms, multiple organizations are connected to the network. There are multiple demand generation engines on the network. There are multiple supply side engines on the network. Maybe a particular demand engine may or may not work for you, but that does not mean the network doesn't work for you. Because the opportunity for you is that there are multiple additional opportunities and access points to you. So think about it as an access, an ability to give you a large access, right? The other beauty about the network is you connect to the network only once. For a seller, if you're a seller or your business, you register, there's a network-wide registry. So once you connect on the network, you have a network-wide registry. Think of it like an Aadhaar card. It's like your Aadhaar identity. Your reputation ledger gets tagged to your identity. So it doesn't matter to me which funnel I'm going through. I could be a directly integrated seller, I could be a seller through another customer aggregator, doesn't matter. Tomorrow I can change if I get a better deal with someone else, or I feel I want to change the way I'm integrated on the network, I can easily do it without the fear of losing my reputation, because now my reputation is not sitting on a platform, it is sitting on the network. Right? So there are multiple categories which have been enabled. We started with food and grocery last year, a year before last. Now we have these other categories which are available, which are live on the network. And we have lots more categories coming on all spaces, B2B, B2C, C2C, whatever constructs you want. So any product or service which can be cataloged can be on the network. We've seen a rapid adoption on the network. So just to give you some comparison, in Jan 2023, we did about 1,000 orders on the network. Last month, we crossed 9 million, and we are in line to hit 50 million by December on the network. In a single month, 50 million transactions on the network, because the kind of entities who are joining to the network. We have over 500,000 sellers, and we have operations across 1,200 cities. So if you think about ONDC, ONDC is the multiplier effect which will help to build and very closely help India reach the goal of the $10 trillion economy. If you read most reports have given very aggressive projections on what the opportunities on the network. So this is about it from my side. I hope I have been able to give you a little flavor of what the network is all about, how the network is different from a platform, and how it opens up a whole world of opportunities for you. Thank you.